6:20 coming up to 6:21 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, the 2018 rainy season is not over yet, but already it will be recorded as a memorable one for all the wrong reasons as far as the level of flooding, the devastating flooding of just about a month ago, October 19th to be precise. So yeah, it was a month ago. In the aftermath, there are concerns about flooding, about landslide mitigation, about proper drainage, and a number of other issues related to the entire management structure for drainage and all of the different issues, and not just the urban areas, because that has also been an accusation, not just from a governmental level, but at a media level, that the media, as per usual, fixated with Port of Spain and don't care about the rest of the country, because most of the media living in Port of Spain or living along the East-West corridor, so they don't give a damn about everywhere else. But as I said, there are a number of issues on the table, and we have three personalities who are obviously eminently qualified to give us some different perspectives. We have Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinanan. We also are joined by Paula Weber, the Director of Drainage, who I saw patiently waiting in her car for opportunity to join us this morning. So she should be all settled and ready for our discourse. And Adande Pigot, who is Traffic Engineer 1, joining us as well. Good morning all. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Minister, one of the fundamental issues that comes to mind in all of this is lawlessness. And I just alluded to you before we came on here, a situation on the Lady Young Road where all of a sudden you see a vast open area that has been cleared off. You can see right down into the Cascade Valley, and you just imagine who did that and so on. To many people, that would be an example of the lawlessness that prevails in Trinidad and Tobago, which makes these issues of drainage and flooding a major concern.
And Fazir, I couldn't agree. So good morning to Fazir, good morning to all the viewers this morning. Fazir, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, at the end of the day, we are responsible for a lot of the perils that we face as a country. Yes, we do have some abnormal weather conditions. Yes, we do have challenges with our infrastructure. But a significant amount of the problems that we face with are man-made and just the way we go about our daily lives. That incident you spoke about on the Lady Young Road is something that have attracted the attention of the Ministry of Works and Transport. As a matter of fact, I spoke to the Director of Highways only yesterday as to securing that access, because you just can't cut into a mountain and then get access to a major road like that. So the Director of Highways will be dealing with that
So
today.
somebody cut their own road, basically?
Somebody basically cut their own road. We're liaising with the relevant authorities to find out what sort of permission that person got. What we find happening, there's a significant amount of increase in the landslips in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, the rain has a lot to do with it, but what we find is that a lot of the landslips are caused by poor drainage, especially from residential areas. Water is a major factor in the landslip problems that we have. But even on the Lady Young, we got a lot of landslip over the last couple of years. When we go up at the top of the landslip, what we found is a lot of squatters where their water have just been running off for years. After a while, you get the effects of that.
So why don't you deal with this?
Well, the thing about the Ministry of Works and Transport has all limitations, but we are working with the relevant authorities. It's a problem throughout Trinidad and Tobago. It's not just there. We had the problem on the Paria Main Road recently. And whenever these things happen, it costs the state a significant amount of money. Just recently, in the Caranage area, a major landslip where people almost lost their lives. I visited that landslip, and it was caused by developers. I'm saying it openly. It was caused by developers who did not have the relevant drainage approval. And it is something, it's a matter that we're engaging now. The legal team is engaged with trying to come to some solution with that. Again, we had to go in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to rectify a problem that if the developers had did the right thing, or if the whole process was followed properly, we could have saved on that.
Well, if I could bring in our other guests as well to get some perspective, because I know, Minister, there are a number of issues on the table, but doesn't that, Ms. Weber, good morning to you, thanks very much for being with us. Doesn't that bring the issue of regulation and enforcement in place? Because you are the director of drainage, and if it is that there is faulty drainage or drainage that is not done properly, what can be done? Is it that people can do whatever they want in Trinidad and Tobago as far as drainage?
No, Fazir, but once we realize there's an infringement, we would report it to the Town and Country Planning or the regional corporation for them to take action against the developers.
But is that action being taken? And that is the fundamental issue, because we have even the Prime Minister highlighting the issue with the Greenville situation, where he talked about a bend in the drain and that all the water was backing up. If we have a drainage division and a department that is supposed to deal with these situations, how are these things still happening?
Well, how it works, a proponent wishing to do a development will approach the Town and Country Planning Division and would give them guidelines and conditions to follow. And in those cases, one of the conditions would be to come to Drainage Division. But as you said earlier, there's a lot of lawlessness. So sometimes persons do not come to the Drainage Division and we're not aware of it. But by the time we become aware of it, then we would write to the relevant authority for them to take action on it.
But, and I know the Minister will probably want to jump in on this discussion, but I have to ask you, Ms. Weber, as with many state agencies, are you a toothless bulldog in the sense that you can only do as your mandate requires, but really you can't enforce anything?
Well, it's not in our, not less on the law books, but our legal people are looking at that. But we have a responsibility as any other agency to grant approvals to developers and persons wishing to do any development. We also give advice to homeowners as well in terms of maintaining setbacks and so on.
And before I bring in Mr. Pigar, because we'll talk about the whole traffic situation in a moment as well. But Minister, I hope you understand the point I'm trying to make. That it's all well and good to hear what ought to be done and what should be done and what may happen in the event of an infringement. In the meantime, developers are building and building, and they don't have regulations to take on. In the meantime, so-called small people and squatters are building and cutting down things, and they have people to take on. And by the time you look to stop it, it's too late because there are too many people there.
Fazir, again, I agree with you. We do have a problem in this country with enforcement. And I can tell you we are trying to change that pattern of the ministry, where we are taking action. In the case of that developer in the Caranage area, I can assure you that the ministry is pursuing that vigorously. The legal team, working with the Director of Highways and the Director of Drainage, to look at all the infringements, and very soon you will see action being taken. At the end of the day, we can take it to a certain level. We have to depend on the court system to have some sort of remedial at the end of the day. I can tell you, Mr. Weber and I have been working together closely. Ms. Weber came in just about the same time I came in, and I am giving them all the support to bring these people who are causing these problems to account. Just recently, I went in the Penal Debe area. We had the flooding in the Woodland area. A significant amount of the structures are illegal, some in watercourses. I had someone telling me, he needs us to sort out the river, because his building is there 18 years now, and he never normally get. When we check the cadastral, his river is on his building is on the reserve. 18 years ago, the weather pattern was different. Now look at where we are. So we have to take certain decisions as to be stern with the people who build. Recently, we went up the Caroni River. There are people building steel structure 10 feet off the bank of the Caroni River, not wooden structures or temporary structures, steel structures. The lawlessness has to stop, because flooding is not just in a certain area in Trinidad. Flooding has to do with upstream, downstream, and the way we treat our water courses. And for too long, people have just been ignoring the law, especially when you have cash money to do developments. Most developers really don't go for the relevant authorities to get the permission to do what they have to do. They go to Town and Country, they get an outline approval, and the development start. And I'm saying that openly. State agencies have also been guilty of doing that. But I think the time has come where enforcement has to be the order of the day in Trinidad and Tobago.
Are you trying to do, assuming, and I can only assume you're sincere, Minister, in what you're saying, but aren't you trying to do the impossible as far as getting either state agencies to do their jobs effectively, to cut out the bribery, to cut out the bubble, and on the other side, to punish those in violation. Aren't you trying to do the impossible in Trinidad and Tobago?
Somebody has to make a start as a country. We have to make a start.
You're going to lose votes because of that.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, this job is not my job. My grandfather didn't leave this for me in any will or anything. At the end of the day, when you take an oath of office, you go in there and you try to do something that will better the lives of the citizens. If it means that takes you out of office, so be it. But at least you could look back on it and say, well, look, I have tried. And I mean, at the end of the day, I don't expect to succeed in everything that we do. But if we don't make a try and start now, and the other person who comes after continue that, we will just be living without hope.
And you mentioned your visit to the Southland and so on, and I'm sure you're aware of it because you have your ear on the ground. You are being accused as part of this government of ignoring the misery of people in South Trinidad, and that all of the images of you in a boat and visiting different areas is just PR and coming after the fact when people in the rural areas have been consistently ignored with their plight, especially in this period of severe flooding.
Well, the statement in itself doesn't make sense because if I had ignored them, and I would not have gone. And if
I said you went there for PR.
If I had gone for PR, I went down there Saturday, and then I went back Sunday. I got all the PR Saturday. Why would I go back Sunday? We went down Saturday with a team of people to assess, look at the damage. Then we went back the next day with supplies. If you go for PR, you don't have to go down there for PR, you know. You can get PR by staying in the office in Port of Spain. Seen me in a boat, I did not even enter a boat on that day. As a matter of fact, one of your cameramen insisted I go into a boat. I said, but I can walk in that water. Why am I going in a boat?
Photo opportunity.
Exactly.
Nice
I had to say no.
We might be helping you with the PR as well.
So I told him I don't need that kind of PR. Why am I going in a boat when I can walk? All right. So you know, sometimes you talk about the PR, but the media actually pushes the PR because it looks nice to have the minister in a boat trying to give out something.
Sure.
But then, I mean, who does that? What purpose does that serve? I am not in this thing for PR. And when I went down there, it was at the behest of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, who was in Tobago, and I was told to stay here, deal with it, because the Ministry of Works does have the capacity to deal with things like that. And at the end of the day, you can't deal with flood victims in the height of the flood. You have to wait to ensure that the water recedes and so.
I'm glad you made that point. Shouldn't you have dealt with it before it happened?
And who is saying that it have not been dealt with before? The thing about it is that, and Ms. Weber will give you the rainfall predictions, how a country operates, because there's this perception that you wait until the flood comes and then you deal with it. The budget is read. You have a program of works. Immediately after you get your funding, that kicks in. I can tell you our program of work started in February of this year, and we were able to complete over 290 projects. Strange enough, in the southern side of the island, 47 projects were requested. They completed their 47 projects before time, and they asked for additional 10. They were granted the 10, and they were completed. So the program, the scope of work that was put forward for that area was completed long before now. But the volume of water and the volume of the rainfall, which Ms. Weber can share with you, is so significant that you can't avoid the flooding. The thing about it is that the water have run off. And if you notice something on the east-west corridor in the south, the water does not stay long to run off. The reason for that is because most of the water courses are cleared to an acceptable level. Now, I'm not saying that we can't do a lot more, but you do have funding challenges. But you have to spread your funding to ensure that you cover as wide an area as possible. So this thing about it should have been done before, who said it was not done before? Look at the areas that was flooded out in South. It's in the Penal DB woodlands.
But if I can interrupt you, Minister, and I don't want to be just a discussion between ourselves because we have other two guests and I'll get them involved, certainly. I know you're big on cricket and so on. But if you tell me that you're practicing and you're real practice, and you make duck 5, 2, 7, 8, and 1, and then you come with a set of excuses afterwards, then if you're telling me that all of this preparation work was done, why was there so much flooding?
Fazir, you look, I'm sure, I mean, I might be a cricket fan, I'm sure you're a media fan, you would look at the world news and you'd see flooding in Spain, you'd see flooding in Australia, you'd see flooding all over the world that is not normal. Even in the Netherlands, they're flooding now, and they are supposed to be the experts on flooding. Flooding has to do now with weather pattern, the volume of the rainfall, and the capacity of your infrastructure. Clearly, our infrastructure over the years have not kept up with the development, and we did not cater for the climate change that we're experiencing now. What has to happen now is that we have to re-engineer the way we deal with flooding. We have to be more, we have to at least focus a lot more now on enforcement, on people who breaches those codes. But more important, we have to look at new methods. We have to look at new channels. We have to look at if a normal area would have had 4 feet of a riverbank. Because of the volume now, we have to increase that to about 6 feet. We have to look in terms of widening channels and so on. So it's a whole, we're going into a whole new norm in terms of rainfall and flooding.
We have to take a break in a
Sure.
but I just want to ask one question of his, but before we go to the break, and I can't forget Mr. Piggott, because he's been sitting there quietly, his phone making a little noise every now and then, but he sorted that out, so which is fine, to talk about the traffic situation and managing traffic issues as traffic engineer one. But Ms. Weber, before we go to the break, if you would just, from your perspective as the director of drainage, what to you is the major challenge as far as you see this issue with record amount of rainfall, intensity of rainfall, weather patterns changing, climate change and so on, but with all the other considerations of regulation and people not following regulations and the lack of enforcement. So what to you, among these many different things, strikes you as the major challenge faced by the drainage division?
One of the major challenges we have, people encroaching on our watercourses, and we have the issue of dumping, illegal dumping and so on. We would have seen earlier this year we did some works, and right after there was a concrete truck pouring concrete into one of our watercourses. That made the news, So people, they dump their garbage. There's an issue with the plastics, the bottles and so on, and it's really taken a toll on us in terms of the finance to get it cleaned up. But we are there to continue to assist. We are doing some other softer programs as well. With the children, we partner with Lawlessness and so on. So we feel if we get the information out there with the children and so on, that when they grow to be adults, they would not
be as bad as us
yes.
in that sense.
Yeah, but those are some of our challenges.
But let's take that break, and we'll be right back, because as we said, when we're talking about not just the flooding issues, but issues related to drainage and roads and traffic and different issues, there are a number of issues on the table. We'll continue that dialogue right after the break.